Well, this is the Pulse here on Joy News, and of course, your comments are welcome. We are live on X Spaces, on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course, on myjoyonline.com, and we'll share with the rest of the world. Now, this afternoon, a lot is happening in our cause. Today, there's a case that took place at Kumasi High Court, the OSP losing in that matter, and of course, we'll have details for you. This relates to the 2020 confirmation of the municipal chief executive for New Jabin in the Ashanti region. The case has finally been brought to a conclusion. The court has acquitted and discharged the suspect in that case, Safo Kantanka. We have details for. We'll travel to Kumasi to be with the very latest. Also, Professor Ameyaw-Akumfi was also in court today. He's a former board chair of the Infrastructure Investment Fund, and he's been granted a 10 million bail with 2 sureties to be justified by landed property in Accra. He has also been ordered to deposit his passport and travel documents with a court registry and report to the police weekly. Also in court today is the former Director General of Signals Bureau. We'll have that details also coming your way. Plus, we'll also take you live to the CRD headquarters, where the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, Bernard Nkibu, is also being questioned by operative there. His lawyer is the former Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Godfrey Adami. My colleague Kenneth Jesse is on standby. We'll cross over to the police headquarters to bring you live update from that interrogation currently underway. But let's start from the court here in Accra, and my colleague Latif Idris was in court. Latif, let's start with the Professor Ameyaw-Akumfi's case. Walk us through what happened in court today.
Okay, so if you recall, at the last adjourned date, Professor wasn't in court. The explanation given by his lawyer then was that he had suffered a medical emergency. Mm-hmm. We didn't know what exactly emergency he had suffered. So the court adjourned for today for his plea to be taken. You know that the plea of his co-accused, Solomon Asamoah, had already been taken. So today it was highly expected that Prof would show up in court, and he did. He appeared in a wheelchair and was donning a blue and gold-colored fugu dress. He had medical plasters strapped on his wrists, suggesting that though he had just been released from the hospital, taken out of the hospital to the courtroom.
And this will be his first appearance.
His first appearance in court. And he also had a walking stick. And if you know the good old professor, he had a peculiar haircut. He was still, having that haircut, and was in his glasses, if you like. He sat calmly in the courtroom and was exchanging pleasantries with sympathizers or people who had come in to solidarize with him, including Kennedy Ejapon. We also had SK Boafo also in court to also solidarize with the former education minister and former minister for ports and harbour during the Ameyaw-Akumfi administration. When the case was called first, he stood up and was supported by the walking stick. But when he was called into the witness box, he was pushed in the wheelchair right in front of the middle of the courtroom to the left corner, and then they made him stop at the witness box. He sat and his plea was taken. In all, there were 4. In all, we have 6 counts, but only 4 for the good old professor. The first count was conspiracy to commit a crime, to wit, willfully causing financial loss to the republic. The good old professor pleaded not guilty. Count 2, willfully causing financial loss to the state. Professor Ameyaw-Akumfi pleaded not guilty. Count 4. So if you see, we've skipped count 3.
Right.
His co-accused was charged with count 3, but he is not. So count 4, conspiracy to commit a crime that is intentionally dissipating public funds. Professor pleaded not guilty. Then we skip count 5 and go to count 6, intentional dissipation of public funds. The good old professor pleaded not guilty. Then his lawyer had to make a case for him to be granted bail.
Right.
Now, so the argument of his lawyer largely is that the man is 80-year-old, He's a statesman. He's served during former President Kufuor
as education minister.
As education minister, as Minister for Ports and Harbors. He served under various boards, including PPA board, and now GIF, which has landed him in this court's suit. Now, when he was going on that tangent, the judge felt like, that is not why we are in court today. You want bail for your clients. Go straight to the point. But you could also tell that he's trying to get into the minds of the judge.
Right.
To explain to the judge that Professor Ameyaw-Akumfi, one, is not a flight risk. He barely travels out of the country, and if he does, it is purely on medical grounds.
Right.
He goes out to seek for medical attention and comes back home. So he's not a flight risk. He has been diagnosed as being hypertensive. And with the surgery that he had undergone, it will be, quote unquote, punishment even before the trial begins. If
to hold him in custody.
Exactly. So his prayer, that I'm just trying to put everything in one. So the prayer is that he should be granted bail. And the bail condition should not be the same as the bail condition for the co-accused, which is the first accused person.
The former senior.
Yeah, because the circumstances, according to the lawyer, are not the same. The Attorney General, that's prosecution, didn't fight back as far as the bill, put forward to the court was concerned. Just that the prosecution said the bail condition should not differ from that of the co-accused. That's all the case of prosecution. The judge made the ruling that Professor Ameyaw-Akumfi be granted a 10 million Ghana cedis bail with 2 sureties to be justified with landed property in Accra. And he has to submit his traveling passport and other documents to the court registry. He has to report to the police. His co-accused is supposed to report to the police 3 times every week. But based on his, condition right now, the judge was very lenient, and she ruled that he reports to the police once every week. The sureties are also supposed to submit their digital address system and Ghana cards to the police. And once the bail condition is executed, Professor Ameyaw-Akumfi would be granted bail. But before we left the court, we told he's been taken to the National Investigations Bureau. They have to go around to verify
the things. We understand that Kennedy Japan is too surety for him.
We saw Kennedy Japan in court. He appeared with some documents. He approached the lawyers for the good old professor, handed certain documents to the lawyers. We do not know if he has become one of the 2 sureties, but we can report that, yes, Kennedy Japan was in court. He had documents. He handed it over to the lawyers, and some of those documents were handed over to Dr. Justice Shremsai, who represented prosecution in this case. So we can speculate that, yes, Kennedy Japan is one of the sureties for the good old professor.
So, as we speak, it's unclear whether he's left the NIB officers and maybe have his temporary freedom.
We cannot confirm that because we were told that he'd been taken to NIB, and as we speak, if indeed they are able to meet those conditions, the police and NIB and all the investigative team would have to go out there, verify all these properties, and then come to the conclusion that, okay, this is able to meet the condition and that the bail is granted. As it stands now, we do not know if that bail condition has been met.
And then away from that, there's also the case of Kwabena Aduboahim, the former Signals Bureau Director General. He was also in court today.
Yes, but let's conclude on this one.
Right.
The co-accused of Professor Ameyaw-Akumfi, he had been granted bail. As we speak, he has not been able to execute.
So he's still in custody?
So he's still in custody. Today, he was brought to the court by security operatives, and when proceedings concluded today, he was escorted back to the vehicle and was taken back to the custody. Back to Kwabena Aduboahim. Yes, he was in court today with his wife and the 3rd accused person. At the last adjourned date, the court ordered that the prosecution should file witness statement and disclosures by May 20. So today was slated for case management conference. But when the Deputy Attorney General appeared, his explanation to the court was that a key investigator is unavailable. And so he's not been able to sign the witness statement and the disclosures that they are supposed to serve in the court. And so they were unable to meet the May 20 deadline given by the court for the filing of the witness statement and disclosures. And so he prayed the court to give them additional days for the key investigator to be available and then sign the documents for the necessary processes to be filed by prosecution. Now, the court or the trial judge, His Lordship Justice John Eugene Nyandu Nyante, he made an order that got us curious because during that brief period in court, there was no mention of plea bargaining, but he made an order that the accused persons should not initiate any plea bargaining agreements with prosecution. And they can only do that after the disclosure processes had been filed on them. So some of us got curious that why would a judge make such a pronouncement or give such an order if behind closed doors there are no talks of plea bargaining?
Right.
So when we met Atachia, who is lawyer for Edubuain and his wife and the third accused person, that was the question we posed to him, that is he really, or the client really considering plea bargaining? And he had a response for us. I don't know if that is ready for us to listen to right now.
All right. So we'll check on that shortly if we can bring in Mr. Atachia's response to the matter of plea bargaining, whether his client has accepted to do so and on what grounds. We'll have that. Okay, so let's listen to Mr. Atachia right now.
Do you have any idea why the judge will...
I have no idea. Maybe that is anticipation that if there is a way to do anything like that, it should always be done premise on the papers file. I do not think that is the way that we are going.
So as instance now, you have not made any offer whatsoever?
We've never made any overtures at all.
Are you considering plea bargaining?
No.
Would you consider that?
No. There's nothing on the table for us to plea bargain.
What do you make of the delay of the prosecution in filing the disclosures as of now?
I'm not too sure. Maybe the issue will be with the Attorney General. Let's give him the space to prosecute the case. Let's respect the fact that if an Attorney General wants an adjournment, then we shouldn't challenge it.
Counsel, it's curious that the judge would make the case about plea bargaining if neither the AG or prosecution or yourself have
because it's a variable. It's a variable in the case management process. Yeah, it's a variable. So he's thinking elastic, but we've not made any overtures relating to plea bargaining.
Is it because you have not seen the volume of evidence against your client by way of prosecution or filing disclosure processes?
It's out of the way for one measure. And we keep saying that people do not understand, and I don't want to do a media trap. That this case has national security ramifications.
The last time we were in court, your client had been kept in bail because, on remand because of a separate case at the Ghana Water Limited. Have you so far been briefed? What is the issue with that?
Well, it's also gotten to do with Ghana Water Company Limited seeking help from national security, give them all the surveillance and the mechanism so that we could police the sanctity of water in the realm. So that's another national security matter.
So nothing wrong by your client there?
Well, at the moment it's very innocent by the terms of the Constitution. And proving otherwise. But what is happening now, I'm afraid people don't understand. It's deeper than what is being presented.
The number of questions that letter that was transmitted to you.
Right, so Samuel Atachia is lawyer for Kwabena Edubuain and the wife. So when next will this case be in court?
Second. the case will be recalled for case management.
Another case management?
Yes.
Meaning what, they were unable to resolve the matters today?
Because the disclosures and the witness statements had not been filed. So
and this is the fault of the prosecutors?
Yes. Because
the judge gave them a deadline.
Exactly.
They've not been able to meet it.
Because according to the Deputy Attorney General, a key investigator is unavailable. And so he asked for 1 more week to be able to get him back to sign those disclosures for the necessary filings to be made.
All right, Latif, thank you so much for coming through. Another case that happened today is the one involving the Office of the Special Prosecutor and the 2020 nominee for the Municipal Assembly of Dwabin in the Ashanti region. The court today acquitted and discharged Kwabena Safu-Kantanka. We have that detail coming to you pretty soon. But let me take you to the CRD here. That is what you have on your screens now. We'll have that for you pretty soon. But the MPP Ashanti Regional Chairman, Bernard Nchibwe-Siakon, also known as Chairman Wontumi, turned himself in to the police this morning, who are reportedly investigating him for alleged involvement in illegal mining and other offenses. Now, officers of the National Intelligence Bureau last Friday, May 23rd, attempted and failed to execute a search warrant at the Kumasi residence of Chairman Wontumi. Now, let me take you to the office of the Criminal Investigation Department of the Ghana Police Service, where my colleague Kenneth Jesse is standing by with the very latest. So, Kenneth, what more can you report? Is Mr. Wontumi still facing questions?
Well, Elton, we're currently at the Criminal Investigation Department headquarters, as you rightly mentioned. We understand that Chairman Wontumi has been here for the past few hours. We understand that his counsel and he himself are engaged in a closed-door meeting with the officers here at the Criminal Investigation Department. We're standing outside because we've been denied access to enter inside. We initially were granted access, but we're told to come outside. But as we speak now, we've been told by bystanders and the police officers that he's been there for the past few hours, although we have no indication as to what time he is coming out. But as you rightly mentioned, he's been invited by the police after that botched invitation that happened in the Ashanti region last Friday. He himself has turned himself in here at the Criminal Investigation Department. What is interesting here, though, is that there are no supporters of the MPP or Chairman Wontumi who, usually you would see a lot of supporters in instances like this. The place is very calm. We understand that no supporters were allowed within the perimeters of the police headquarters. So in your shot now is the entrance to the Criminal Investigation Department here at the headquarters of the police, the Ghana Police Service, and we're still awaiting to see the outcome of it. So we are monitoring events from outside, of course, to see what will happen, whether he will be allowed to go or whatever outcome that we will get. We will surely be bringing our viewers and listeners up to speed, Elton.
We'll leave it here for now and then come back to you when there's development on this particular matter. Bernard Nchibwe-Siakon, the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, is facing questions unclear exactly what they are investigating him. But according to his lawyer, they got an invitation from the CRD some time back requesting that he availed himself for some questions relating to his role as CEO of a Akunta mining firm and the fact that the mining firm had been involved in illegal mining or helping somebody engage in illegal mining activities. Now, last Friday, May 23rd, operatives of the NIB went to his premises in Kumasi, but they were unable to execute a search warrant. The negotiation ended with Wontumi lawyers saying that they will present him to the police today, Monday. That's exactly what they did today. Now, another development that we are learning is that in all of this, development, the former member of parliament for Asante South, Andy Apiakubi, had always been the lawyer for Mr. Wontumi. But this afternoon, we're told that former Attorney General Godfrey Yeboah has taken over the case and is now representing Mr. Wontumi in this, inquiry, if you like, or questioning with the CID, the outcome of which we do not know yet. But we'll go back to this particular story when we have development. My colleague, Kenneth Jesse, will continue to stand by the police headquarters for the very latest on this matter. Another matter that broke this morning is what we read on the social media page of the Foreign Affairs Minister, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. Now, Ghana's embassy in Washington, D.C., United States of America, has been shut down, at least for the time being, after some staff members were allegedly caught in corrupt and fraudulent schemes. The Minister for Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, who ordered the closure, explained that a local staff charged unapproved fees of up to 60 to 126 United States dollars to clients at the blind side of the Foreign Affairs Minister. My colleague, Koko Santi, joins me in the studio. So, Koko, what more do we know on this matter?
Yes, Elton, according to Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, their staff is called Mr. Kwatin, Fred Kwatin. And according to the Foreign Minister, he was employed on August 11, 2017 to work on the embassy's IT infrastructure, and he has been working there since then. And what he is accused of doing is that he is said to have illegally diverted or created a sort of a back channel on the embassy's website that directed potential clients to the embassy to his personal company's website, which he had created, and he was charging between $29.75 and $60 for services that ordinarily are actually offered by the embassy. And so if you wanted to do something with the embassy and you went onto the website and you clicked on that service, it redirects you to the website owned and operated by this Mr. Kwatin, and he charges you between $29 and then $60 to offer you those services. The minister says this was at the blind side of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It was not approved, and it was also not gone through Parliament through the Fees and Charges Act, for which reason they thought that this was an irregular payment. This person has since been dismissed. The IT team have all now also been dissolved. And the ministry says they are taking this matter pretty seriously. Apart from that, they've taken a number of very far-reaching measures. We've talked about the closure of that embassy, at least temporarily. But before that, what they've also decided to do is that, like I said, all locally recruited staff at the embassy have now been asked to come home. And so if you're a Ghanaian who used to be at the foreign ministry, who was sent abroad to the Washington embassy, you have been recalled home. Also, the Auditor General has been asked to step in and conduct a forensic audit to sort of get an understanding of how much Mr. Kwatin has collected over the period. But also, what the government is trying to do is that they're trying to take a very serious view of this, according to Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. And so that embassy remains shut, at least for now, while the ministry tried to go down to the bottom of this. Obviously, there's a lot of recruitment that would have to be done for the ministry to get back in shape, since they have now recalled all their staff. I mean, they have to send a new team out there. That is exactly what Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa has disclosed to the public as of this morning.
Is there indication what will happen to this Mr. Kwatin? Because the dismissal for a lot of people may not be enough. Exactly.
According to the Foreign Affairs Minister, this matter has been referred to the Attorney General to investigate to see if there are any potential criminality, if any conduct of Mr. Kwatin in this case borders on some things that are illegal and infringes on the country's rules and regulations. And once that is established, there will be prosecution. That is the assurance that the minister has also been given on this matter. But already there are those who are calling and asking that this matter should not end up with Ghanaian authorities, and that the ministry should also report this matter to the U.S. authorities. Right. So that investigations can be done. These assets allegedly gotten through this ill means, so-called, will be traced. The assets will be seized and perhaps handed over to Ghana. But for now, what the ministry has done is to hand over the investigation that they concluded initially, and the findings, to the Attorney General and Minister for Justice for him to decide if any laws have been breached and if any prosecutions are warranted.
Okay, thank you so much for coming through. Now, meanwhile, the minority in Parliament, they are firing the Minister for Foreign Affairs, accusing him of being undiplomatic with diplomatic issues. The Deputy Ranking Member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Nana Asafo-Adjei, has been raising concerns over the decision in an interview with my colleague, Anna Odame.
Let me first and foremost place on record that the minority is not against the sanctions or the measures that are being taken to reprimand or to, punish wrongdoers. Never. We are not against that. But you see, we feel that there should have been so much more consultation, so much more diplomacy and tactfulness to this whole matter. Now, the embassies are not only for visa or for passport works. The embassy goes beyond the visa and passport works. You see, the embassy largely serves as a critical platform for a lot of diplomacy work. We have trade attaches in the embassies. We do scholarship activities in the embassies. Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of strategic dealings that goes on in the embassy. So for you to come out and say that because of a certain fraud allegation, you are closing the entire embassy, that is an embodiment of a country in another man's land, that we disagree. No. I mean, we could have done this without closing the embassies. That is one major issue the minority has against the decision that have been taken by the.
But then this closure is just temporal. So why not allow for the investigation? After that, it's opened.
Have you costed? Hold on. Have you costed the cost that would the closure for temporarily cost to the country? Have you imagined or averted your mind to the diplomatic relations that this temporal, so-called temporal, will affect the country? No, not. Again, now, you see, our point is basically simple. We are saying that you have some stuff in Washington. Mm-hmm. Something happened. You've done your investigation. You've come out with your findings. You did not inform them officially. I think stakeholders would be comfortable dealing with an embassy that no less a person, the minister, has declared that embassy as a fraudulent area and has closed it down. You think as a U.S. as a state will be comfortable dealing with you coming from the minister?
Right. So let's try and understand this particular matter. And your comments are welcome on this very disturbing development. Now, let me bring in the former Consul General at the Ghana Consulate in New York, who served around this time this alleged incident took place, Honorable Daniel Kingsley Atabwa, former Member of Parliament for Fomena, also in the Ashanti region. Honorable, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Hello, Elton.
Yes, good afternoon, Honorable Atabwa. Good afternoon, and it's good to see you. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and it's been a while. I trust you are doing good.
Yes. I'm around, and then we are monitoring exactly what is happening within the country.
Great. So because of the unique role you played as Consul General at the Ghana Consulate in New York, obviously you are privy to some of these discussions. First, let me start with you. There's Ghana Embassy situated in Washington, D.C., and there is a Ghana Consulate in New York. If you can help us understand the roles played by these two entities. Is it the case that the consulate operates under the embassy?
Thank you, Elton, for this very important discussion. I think we should make it clear to your numerous listeners as to exactly the role of the Ghana Consulate in New York and then the role of the Ghana mission.
Right.
The Ghana Consulate is one way or the other independent from the activities of our people in the Washington, D.C.
Right.
That is the embassy. We have it. And then we have the ambassador, who is for the entire America. Maybe he's supervising on behalf of Ghana government. And then we have also got another ambassador who works with all the other entities within the United Nations. We've got an ambassador there. And then I was there as the Consul General, who was in charge of the Ghana Consulate in New York. So you realize that those of us who were with the consulate, who were working with the ambassador, who was in charge of the activities of the United Nations, and then our we had another one to act the Washington, D.C. So we had 2 ambassadors, and I was there as the Consul General in New York.
All right. So exactly the role of the consulate, so that we'll try and situate it well.
Okay. What the consulate does is that we issue the visas, we issue passports, and then we work with any other group of people who at any point would like to do some job, maybe investors, people who want to visit Ghana, tourists. The upper ambassador, he will be there as the head of the place.
Right.
But with the consulate, the consul general is there as the head. But in Washington, they were not having the consulate. They were having some officers who were working with some officers who at any point were not headed by the consul general.
So in terms of issuance of visa, it will come to your office?
No, with the visa, they do their work independently. That is, we have got some officers who are consul officers who are also in Washington, who do the job like what we were doing in New York. But New York has got an officer who is directly in charge of all the activities of the consulate.
So what's yourself as Consul General, did you come across this Fred Kwatin that we are told was, a locally employed individual, was involved in the IT setup and all of this? I'm wondering whether you came across him.
Yeah, yes. I know him. I know him as an IT personnel with the Washington D.C. embassy. I know that gentleman. I know him.
The charge against him is that he redirected applications for visa to his own setup and ended up charging applicants more than the required amount the embassy has or had displayed. Is it possible? I think we are losing Honorable Atabuafo there. Honorable Atabuafo, good afternoon. Please, can you hear me? Let's see if we can raise him again on a good line so we can have this conversation. We are speaking to the Ghana's former Consul General at the Ghana Consulate in New York. So Honorable Atabuafo was asking, the charge against this Fred Kwatin is that he redirected applicants for Ghanaian visa to his own private firm and ended up taking more than was required of them. Is this something that is possible as far as your experience and working with the consulate is concerned?
Yeah, I think that is where my concern. Yes, that is where my concern is for him to direct people.
We are having difficulty here. I think we'll try and reach you. Honorable, my apologies. We'll try and reach you on the telephone, direct telephone instead of the Zoom, so we can hear you quite clearly on this very important matter. And of course, my guest this afternoon is the Consul General, the former Consul General at the Ghana Consulate in New York, Honorable Atta Kingsley Boafo. If you are just tuning in and you are hearing this for the very first time, the Foreign Affairs Minister has taken decisive action following revelation of corrupt practice at the Ghana Embassy in Washington, D.C. in the United States of America. So we have Honorable Atabuafo back on phone. I'm hoping this time we can have a clearer conversation. So Honorable, I was asking whether what this gentleman is alleged to have done is possible.
That is where my problem is, the possibility of a different group of people issuing visas to our clients is where the problem is. I do not think that one is going to be possible. But to the best of my knowledge, I know that in Washington, what they were doing was people used to mail their parcels to the embassy, but they were charging some fees. They were charging some extra fees for people to pay before they mail the parcel back to them. And at a point, when I saw it, I was trying to ask that, so who gave, was it the minister or anybody who gave that directive? Because if you want to give some charges to anybody, it should come from the ministry. You should be given the nod by the minister or any other person who has been appointed by the minister to give that instruction. But when I realized that they continued doing it, I said, well, I do not know where that where they got that opportunity to do that. And that is where I think the problem is coming from. Because it will be difficult for any individual to issue visa to any other person. That is exactly what I know. In New York, what we did was that at any point, if you want to secure a visa or a parcel, you come along with a self-addressed envelope, and then you affix it with your own stamps. So that when we finish with your request, we mail it back to you, so that you do not pay more. And at a certain point, some of our Ghanaian people will be complaining, why don't you do that? Well, like what is happening in New York, in Washington? I said, no, with this, I cannot, because if I want to do that, I have to seek approvals. And I think that might be the cause, because looking at the amount they are quoting that is charged is exactly the prices of some of the stamps and then the mailing that brought.
But in this case, Mr. Okudzeto says, Mr.
Their
Parton,
website,
yes,
that if you request for the visa, you should also add an amount of money to it, and that one goes to a different entity, and that is where I think the problem is. But with the visa, he cannot direct anybody to issue a visa apart from what is being done at the mission or at the consulate.
So therefore, you are suggesting that the minister could be wrong in suggesting that Mr. Kwarteng created an unauthorized link on the embassy's official website. The link redirected applicants to his private company, Ghana Travel Consultants, where extra fee ranging from $29.7 to $60 were charged without Ministry of Parliamentary approval. You say that this cannot be possible.
What I am trying to say is that what I read was that he was doing it to redirect people to issue visas. That is where I say that one, I don't think it's possible. But since that gentleman is an IT guy, he could do like what I'm talking about the mailing of the documents back to the people, and he redirecting it to a source. That one, it is possible. We see with the minister, my concern is that when issues of this nature happens at the diplomatic circles, it carries a lot of discontent to people, especially the Americans and the people within the diaspora. So this thing needs to be investigated thoroughly before maybe a decision is taken. Because what? You cannot close down an embassy. You see, whilst the Americans, they know that they haven't had any problem with Ghana. Why should Ghana close its embassy? And what are the people going to think about Ghanaians if you close down the embassy? But from what I am reading and what I'm hearing, if it is about the visa, I don't think that's, but it is about redirecting some amount of money paid by these potential people who need to get their mails back to them. They are the people where he can maybe send the money as well, but with the visa, no. But for the mailing, that one, I think it is being done in Washington. But
usually, when people pay for visa, doesn't the applicant also pay for the mailing of the of the visa to the person's address.
Yes, that is where it has. If people would like to pay, they have to pay and into the accounts of the embassy. But it shouldn't go to a private person. You understand? But in New York, what we do is that we do not allow anybody to pay even to us or to pay to any other person. Your envelope.
We are again losing.
You have. I think you do understand where I'm coming from.
Yes, sir.
So that is it. But what I read was that he was redirecting the acquisition of visa to people. That is where maybe my problem is. But I don't think that is possible. But rather, with the amount of money being paid on the mailing, that one, it is possible he can do it. Being an IT officer, he can do it.
And then government reaction to this is the temporary closure of the embassy. All staff members asked those who are there as employees of foreign affairs posted to the embassy, they are coming back home. Local employees, including Mr. Kwarteng, their contract obviously terminated.
No. Even that one, for me, as a former consul general and a diplomat, I think that one is too harsh because what about a secretary who is working over there? What about home-based officers who are at any point not even closer to the job that this gentleman is doing? And then you combine all these people. No. I think what we should look at is we should ensure that we maintain the activities of the embassy. We should maintain it. We shouldn't close the place down. It is very dangerous for Ghana. Because, as ministers, as people who are in charge of some of the, when issues of this nature come, we should be very, very in it. Because if we are not careful, the repercussion will be more dire even than exactly what this gentleman has done. In diplomacy, we take time to analyze issues before we take such decisions.
But Mr. Boafo, the implications of an embassy has been closed down. What are the diplomatic implications of this?
Now let's ask ourselves, what about the Americans who have applied for visas in Washington? If you close it down and they are supposed to take delivery of it tomorrow and you close it down today, don't you see the implications? Somebody needs a visa to come to Ghana. And you've closed the place down. How does the person even secure his passport? Because the passports are the properties of the American government. I don't think it is the best. I don't think.
So what do you suggest must be done now?
There should be thorough investigation.
And that's exactly what the government says it is doing, including trying to identify Mr. Kwarteng's collaborators to bring them to book. And so these can be done when nobody is working.
That thing should be done. The government should do it so that it will save the image of the embassy, one. And what we should do is that we have to do proper and thorough investigation as to who even authorized this gentleman to do that. That is very important. And if nobody authorized him, that is exactly what we have to do. The person should at any point be prosecuted or put before the courts. But to close the place down, I think that is where the problem. And recalling the home-based officers, I think that one is also too harsh. So I will plead with the minister for the foreign minister that he should be a little bit circumspect in some of these things as the minister. And he is even representing Ghana, that is outside the whole Ghana. He is representing Ghana everywhere. So if things of this nature happen and it comes from the pen or the mouth of the minister, then we are trying to wash our linen so much to the public. I think that is where we have to look at that.
That doesn't also give indication that this is a government that will not allow people to undertake corrupt activities and then they swept under the carpet. Wouldn't it give confidence to the people Ghana embassy work with that this is a country that is not interested in hiding anything, want to put everything
I agree. But what we should do is that the gentleman who has been caught he cannot work there. The minister is right. He should quickly leave there and then we investigate. So that maybe there might be so many people who at any point are part of this very scandal. You understand? All these people should be, when we investigate it properly, we can bring all these people. My concern is closing down the embassy. That is my major concern. For that, we are fighting corruption, but at any point, you can't throw away the water with the baby in it. That is where the problem is.
My final question for you, Honorable, is Mr. Kwarteng was a local employee. Now that government has declared him, I don't want to use the word wanted because they have not said so, but can Ghana report his conduct to the U.S. authority for them to possibly arrest and investigate him, knowing that he's not a diplomat with the embassy?
Yes. We have so many ways that are being handled by our Attorney General. There are so many ways of getting him apprehended. That one can be done. And from what we are seeing, this is where we have to learn from the fact that if anybody is being employed by the embassy, who at any point is going to be a local staff, there should be some people who will come in to vouch for them. When issues of this nature happens, they are the people who will be held responsible, and then those guys will be brought to book. But in the meantime, this gentleman can be arrested. He can be the help of the Attorney General, and then certain measures put in place. He can be arrested because he was working for Ghana. And what I would like to say is that in every embassy throughout the country, when any Ghanaian gets a problem and he goes to the embassy is the final place for any other person, a Ghanaian, a Nigerian. Their embassies are the homes for the people.
Right.
So if you close the place down, what is going to be the fate of anybody who happens to have a problem? It means it is also not going to augur well for our people who are in America or Washington.
But can the consulate in New York do the work that the embassy in Washington do right now? Now that it is on suspension.
Yes, but it is going to create problems. If you look at the size of America, if you look at the number of people who secure visas and then passports, both in Washington and New York, it is going to cost the people seriously. It is going to cost them seriously. That is why I'm saying that the closure of the place is going to affect many people, including our Ghanaian people, foreigners, and anybody who would like to do business in Ghana. And what we are going to tell the whole world is that we have got corrupt people at the Ghana embassy in Washington, which of course might not be the issue, but we have got an individual who has one way or the other misconducted himself.
All right, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Thank you for that education. One about Daniel Kingsley Atabuafo. He's a former consul general. He worked with the Ghana consulate in New York during the Akufo-Addo administration. Let me bring in an international relations expert, social security expert on this matter, Dr. Victor Doke. Dr. Doke, good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
How are you?
Right. So you have heard the justification by the Foreign Affairs Minister for closing Ghana's embassy in Washington D.C. At least for the time being. And they've also heard from the former Consul General, Ghana Consulate in New York. What is happening, and what do you think should be the best approach now that the embassy is on suspension, at least for now?
Well, thank you very much. I think the incident is very unfortunate in the first place. Now, secondly, you're looking at putting things in place as soon as you have identified that there's some corrupt practices going on in there. In any institution, if this should happen, what is done is that the person who has been found guilty will step aside, and any other persons who are associated So in this case, you see there's a large-scale process that is going on. However, the two speakers have already talked about the implications with regards to processes of private visas and all of that. Security-wise, we are not able to monitor from the Washington aspect events because embassies are not only for processing documentations, but they serve as the purpose for what? Bilateral relations, discussion, security discussion. So, for example, if the President of the United States or anybody in the highest figure wants to visit Ghana, they relate it to what? The embassies in there, and then the message comes here. Now, what is going to happen is, we don't know when the investigations are going to be over, but it should be done as soon as possible for the reopening of the Washington office, because it won't be good. And as much as I support transparency and accountability, we need to look at how we can fast track this progress. Going forward, how do we ensure that whoever we recruit or employ is going through a very rigorous and strict screening before we employ the persons? And that's what we need to look at. So holistically, once the president of the land has assented, also agreed to the minister's proposal to shut it down, there isn't much of a big deal out of it. By that I mean, it is Ghana's prerogative as a sovereign nation to temporarily hold proceedings. Don't forget, we have other officers doing basically the same thing. So probably some of the services may be transferred to those officers. But holistically, it does not threaten our sovereignty. It doesn't add anything with regards to how we are seen on the outside. There have been cases where embassies have been shut down due to illegal activities all over the world. They won't be the first.
But I mean, Mr. Atabuafo is of the view that the punishment is too harsh. I mean, for example, this is one person that the ministry has identified, at least for now. The ministry says that there could be collaborated, the reason why it is undertaking this investigation. But everybody who worked at the embassy is now jobless, if you like. And you think that it is just too harsh?
I think we have to wait after investigations to ascertain and conclude that everybody there is jobless. Because after investigations, I'm sure and positive that some will definitely go back. Okay? So it is for the purpose of having an investigation done. And after that, we'll see the way forward. Now, with this kind of large-scale process of investigations, you need everybody to step aside in this case. That it means the quantum of what we are hearing may not even be as it is on the actual ground. There is more to it than what we are hearing from the minister or even seeing. And he said from his post that he would keep the nation posted. So we are waiting to hear or see further issues regarding why there should be a large-scale closure, and then almost everybody is actually will step aside.
But how exposed can the embassy and vital information be, especially when you have an IT person who managed to redirect, visa payment to a private entity and then made so much money out of it? If he was able to do so, to what extent could even this compromise, vital information that the embassy may be handling?
Now, every embassy, in a host country, serves as a country in itself. And a country in itself holds vital information, security information that can be used against any other country. Now, we're talking about an IT person who we know per reports has done only one aspect. We do not know the other aspect, i.e., James, assuming he had vital information pertaining to our existence and our sovereignty. Who did he give those informations to? Our presidents have gone there, our ministers have gone there. How did he relate these informations if he did get his hands on it? And that is why I believe that the minister has taken this drastic position. So we need to verify what kinds of information, apart from the process and the monetary aspect, that we are being told. If secrets have gone out, then that is a national security crisis.
All right. We'll leave it here for now and wait for the outcome of this investigation. Dr. Victor Doka is a security and international relations expert. Thank you so much for your time. We'll take a short break, but remember the pause is brought to you by Defendril Cough Expectorant. It clears chest congestion, smoothing cough, and fight the common cold. Easy and feel better. Now, Defendril is available at all pharmacies and OTCs across Ghana. Not recommended though to children under 6 years. If you are interested in bulk purchase, please visit Rapid Improvement Pharmaceuticals, Spinters Road, next to the Royal House Chapel or better store. Give them a call on 053-6614-32. That's 053-6614-32. Defendril, breathe easy, feel better. And of course, when we come back, I will take you back to the CID headquarters where Chairman Wontumi is facing questions when we return. You're welcome back, and of course, I'll be sharing some of the comments we've sent in so far on our console for you this afternoon. The story we are focusing on this afternoon, among others, is the CID invitation of the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, Bernard Ntwibu-Asiakon, also known as Wontumi, is currently before the police CID answering certain questions together with his lawyers. The MPP Director of Communication is joining us for some conversation around. They will also be taking you live to the CID headquarters where my colleague Kenneth Jesse is on standby for the very first latest. But this is how Chairman Wontumi walked into the CID office this morning.
Allah, CW1.
You're welcome. We hope you are keeping safe. We hope everything is strong. How are you, sir?
Thank you.
No, how are you? It's good to see you.
Very well.
You're welcome to the CID.
How are you? My lawyer is there. Your lawyer? My lawyer is there. Okay. My lawyer is there. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
Where you are? How did that happen?
Listen, it's okay. Okay, no drama. No drama, please. Okay, sir. Give me a while, sir.
So the MPP Regional Chairman is represented in this interrogation by his lawyers, the former Attorney General Godfrey Debo-Adame, and of course Andy Apiakubi, who is also a former Member of Parliament for Asante-Achem South. And very soon we'll cross over to the CID headquarters where this particular meeting is taking place. But let me bring in the MPP's National Communication Director, Richard Ahiagba. Richard, so it's been a very busy time for the MPP. I mean, it started last week and still you're going through this.
And thank you very much. I think that as a party, we're law-abiding, and this matters that will encourage party members and government functionaries to comply if law enforcement seeks their collaboration or participation in dealing with any matter. And so I think that is in the right direction. So far this morning, I think that everything has been going on as we ought to. My understanding is that the Shanti Regional Minister, Chairman is at the CID head office and has been giving statements, one point after another. The hope is that at least by the close of day we would understand exactly what the issues are. But this is what the government needed to have done from the beginning. The earlier attempts of Rambo-style approach to these things were just needless and created stress for everyone. And I hope that they will learn from that failed and non-democratic approach and learn better. Going forward, our people are available, they are willing to collaborate. If there is any question, they must answer. All the government has to do is to be civilized about it, to use the democratic processes, and people would make themselves available to ensure that whatever answers they have that the government requires, they provide it so our country can move on.
Last week when we spoke to Mr. Ameyaw-Akumfi, he says they, as lawyers, had gotten wind that he was being investigated for the role Afenyo-Markin may have played in the area of illegal mining. I don't know if that is the same information you have at the party headquarters.
We don't have anything formally, and I think that you put it well. How what the lawyer, senior Atacha, they have given you indications to that perhaps that it's to do with the Afenyo mining. Because we've known this, and the NDC has given hints to it. If that is a concern, absolutely, we are all interested in fighting fighting galamsey, and so we will support for that effort to advance. And all the government has to do is to respect the liberties of Ghanaians and individuals, and use the proper approaches to invite people. Be proportional to the kind of investigation you are doing. You don't bring 6, 7, 8 weapon wielding NIB personnel to invite room to me. So I think that whatever the concerns are, whatever the answers are the government seeks, the only thing is that invite the person appropriately, and then they will be there to be able to answer whatever the questions are. All we are all looking for, including you, myself, the New Patriotic Party, is that our country should be better, should serve our needs, and the natural resources that we're endowed with are properly exploited for our collective benefit. Anything that goes against appropriate exploitation are things that ought to be questioned, and people who engage themselves in it must answer for it, because then they're affecting all of us, not just a few, not NPP, not NDC, but the collective suffering that we all have to go through for their illegal activity. So that is something we support, that the right thing be done. But the only thing, as we heard from the last time we had this rather unfortunate attack on him, we're saying that just do the right thing. Be considerate in your approach, and let everybody be respected in the process. Where people go wrong, let the law take its course. So I think I'm happy that he's there today, which he earlier on committed he will be there on Monday before that appearance by the NIB people. So I'm happy the process is unfolding. Let's just see where the chips will fall.
All right. So now there's nothing to complain about. We are just hoping that the due process will go on as smooth as and then after that we will know the way forward as far as the party is concerned.
Absolutely. And this is to reiterate that as a party we're law-abiding. The NDC was creating this impression, and I think that on your platform, the Deputy Interior Minister made some allusion to that. We are law-abiding group of people, the New Patriotic Party. I'm sure he knows that, but politics won't allow him to accept it. But we are law-abiding. What we are opposed to is political victimization and a show of needless power. We are citizens first before politicians. So one to me, his civil rights must be respected. And the way the government was approaching him, we think that was excessive, was needless. And when they go through the appropriate route, we will support for that to be done, because It is what we have set up as a system for ourselves, that there must be accountability, that all of us are equal before the law. So the law is supreme. And so when people fall foul of the law, let's take the appropriate process and get them to exonerate themselves or be found guilty. And then when that happens, all of us would have nothing to say, but the law would prevail. So at this point, we're supporting the government to do right and respect his civil rights. If there's anything wrong, let the law take its course, in my view. But for what happened the last time, I think that it is a sore on our democracy, and that should not be repeated again.
Finally, is there any latest on Mr. Alfred Kumi?
I think that from the bail the last time, I think that there's a condition that I think he may have to be reporting, but we haven't seen anything beyond the initial charge that was preferred against him as far as false publication. But I'm thinking that when the investigators arrive at any material fact or arrive at any point where they need to proceed, we'll get to know. But for now, there's nothing new on this front.
Okay. We will leave it here for now. I mean, so far, the former Attorney General is the one representing Mr. Wontumi in this matter. But we shouldn't hear about. Thank you so much for this, for your time on this particular discussion. Kenneth Jesse, my colleague, is still at the CID headquarters. Kenneth, any movement yet? All right, so we'll have Kenneth shortly if you have him. But also happened in court today in the Ashanti Regional Capital, Kumasi, as the High Court has acquitted and discharged Alexander Kwabena Safo-Kantanga, President Akufo-Addo's nominee for Juabe Municipal Chief Executive in the Ashanti region. This was in 2020. He had been facing 26 counts of corruption in relation to a public election since May 2022. Mr. Safo-Kantanga appeared in a viral video allegedly demanding the return of monies reportedly paid to assembly members to secure the confirmation of his nomination. Let's listen in. I mean, this formed the basis for the OSP decision to take him to court.
Who said this person? Oh, I'm a village captain. I'm a village captain. This guy has someone here. Okay. Which one here? I'm a village. Yes, no. Oh, no, who said that? Mr. Yes, no. But this guy. But who the what's he for? What is that? What is that? I'm having someone here. That way, okay. Me the other way. Oh, God, this someone here. Oh, God, this someone here. Who is that having someone here? Who is that having someone here? I have put himself with the we are. Who is that having someone here? Oh, I can't have money into prove. Who brought them here? What's the town? What does that mean? You know, me one airport. Foolish for like you. We didn't know one airport. Sir, I don't come to Singapore. For information center, I want to prove what is the one partner. Who drive on the channel. What will punish you? Also, Bolani to prove you by your most kind of mobile passer. And a criminal, what wouldn't you have fine? Wouldn't man have a fine? Some pennies. Let's stand out here. You bring it. Don't go there. Don't go there. Oh, I like to pass out. Oh, there. Put the name of it.
So this formed the basis for the OSP's case that was put before Kumasi High Court, and then finality brought to with this today. Let me walk you through the stages. So on September 2021, Mr. Safo-Kantanga allegedly bribed 26 Juaben Municipal Assembly members to secure his confirmation as Municipal Chief Executive. Now, in November 2021, 2nd November, the Office of the Special Prosecutor commenced investigations into his case. And then in May, 24th May 2022, the OSP charged Mr. Safo-Kantanga on 26 counts of corruption. In June 2022, Mr. Safo-Kantanga pleads not guilty to all 26 counts. And then in October 2022, the trial commenced at the Kumasi High Court. And then continue in July 2023, the OSP closes its case. In November 2023, the accused files submission of no case. And then on the 29th of November 2023, the OSP files a written response to the submission of no case by the accused. In April 2024, the court dismisses submission of no case. And then Mr. Afenyo-Markin filed an appeal at the Court of Appeal and concurrently filed for a stay of prosecution at the Kumasi High Court, but both failed. And then date sets in November 2024-28, date set for judgment. However, case was adjourned after the presiding judge was transferred. And then today happens to be the latest, 26th of May 2025, the court, in its own wisdom, acquitted and discharged, reason that the video evidence does not show that he, Afenyo-Markin, gave money to influence assembly members. So, the case lasts 2 years, 11 months, and that's the outcome. It's unclear whether the office of the special prosecutor will file an appeal or will appeal against the judgment. We'll wait to see the next action of the OSP. Let me bring in my colleague Ohemen Tewia. I work with our sister station Shah FM in Kumasi, and he was in court for joining us. Ohemen, so tell me, Mr. Afenyo-Markin must be a happy man by now. And if you can unmute for me, Ohemen.
Hello, can you?
Yes, I can hear. And I was asking, Mr. Afenyo-Markin must be very happy by now.
Yes, he is a very happy man because at the court premises, when I spoke to him briefly, he was seen, laughing all over. And he also directed that we speak to his lawyers because in that condition, he was overjoyed. So I would say that he is a very happy man.
And I'm wondering, in terms of after the judgment was handed down, the reaction from the lawyers, from the OSPs, and then lawyer for Mr. Afenyo-Markin.
For the OSP, who was represented by lawyer Ajewa, she spent brief time at the court premises and left immediately after the judgment from the court. But for Mr. Afenyo-Markin's counsel, lawyer Kwame Adum Appiah, had opportunity, had time to spare with journalists as we asked him for his reaction as far as this judgment was concerned. And for him, he explained that he is a happy man, knowing very well that this is a criminal case and anything could have happened to his client. But this time around, he was quite sure, few months after he called 3 witnesses, and the witnesses were in favor of his client to the extent that they denied ever receiving money to vote for the embattled MCE nominee. And then when the case was called today, he was sure of one thing, and that is victory. And it came to pass that indeed his client, Mr. Alexander Afenyo-Markin, was acquitted and discharged. So he wasn't surprised, but he said he was a very happy man as a lawyer, having had to go through a lot of processes, meetings to also sort of defend his client. He was happy today.
And then finally, before you go, I mean, the judge in part of the ruling says that the video evidence does not support that he, Mr. Afenyo-Markin, gave the money to influence assembly members. Did the judge explain further? Yes, Ohemen, can you hear me?
Hello, Atin?
Yes, I was asking, the part of the ruling says that the video evidence does not show that Mr. Afenyo-Markin gave the money to influence the assembly members. And I'm asking whether the judge explained further the reason behind this conclusion.
No, the judge didn't explain further. She read from the concluding part of a judgment. That is what she said in open court. But later, when we sort of get understanding from lawyers from Mr. Afenyo-Markin, the indication was that the money was actually meant for the treatment of some psychiatric patients. That is what the lawyers for Mr. Safo Kantanka said. And that after the MCA nominee had given money to some of the assembly members, I must say, to attend to this patient, the MCE met him in public and later demanded to know what actually happened as to whether he did sought treatment for the psychiatric patient or not. So in court, all these allegations were proved in court. According to him, they called witnesses, and the witnesses testified to the fact that the issue in question, the money in question at that time, had nothing to do with the MCE nominee election, but it was just to attend to some psychiatric patients, of which the MCE nominee had given money out to some of these assembly members to attend to them. So I would say that the judgment was very brief. The presiding judge, Justice Odikro Ofori, was very brief.
Well, we've lost him in here, but I think he said it all. Thank you so much. I'm in Ameyaw with our sister station in Shrive. Now, the Accra Regional Command, Police Command, has declared war on illicit drug trade as it retrieved 5 sacks of illicit drugs for a 30-year-old man in Accra. The drugs includes the popular Red, Tramadol, and Volume 10 were retrieved from this 30-year-old person at Sabun Zongo in Accra. Now, speaking at the news conference, the Accra Regional Commander, DCOP Duty Tuahuka, says the suspect is currently standing trial for possession of illicit drugs as well as a pump-action gun.
A successful arrest and having charged 30-year-old trader Amidu Mohammed for possession of quantities of dangerous drugs and unlicensed firearm at Sabon Zongo. Upon conducting thorough search of the suspect's premises, police retrieved quantities of various restricted and prescription-only drugs, including Tramaco 225, Tramakin 225, Tafrodrol 225, particularly known in the area as Red or Nim Red, as well as Dasipam 10, commonly referred to as Blue or Volume 10. The search further led to the recovery of pump-action gun, which was concealed in the sack within the suspect's shop. The suspect claimed ownership of the drugs, but alleged that the firearm was left in the shop by an unknown individual whose identity he could not provide to police. Amidu Mohammed has since been arraigned before the Ansuman Circuit Court, where he is facing 2 charges. 1, possession of dangerous drugs, contrary to Section 38 of the Pharmacy Act 1994, Act 489. The second count, possession of firearm without lawful authority, contrary to Section 192 of the Criminal Offences Act 1960, Act 29.
Well, the police in this renewed crackdown are also calling on the public to volunteer information on similar drug trades in the capital.
Our Regional Police Command commands the vigilance and the cooperation of the community members who helped in this particular arrest. The police continue to urge the public to provide police with credible information to support this ongoing fight against crime, illicit drugs within the community, and assures all informants of their safety and confidentiality in our engagements with them. Together, we can make our communities safer, and more secured.
Well, in a related development, the police has also secured 10 to 15 years prison term for 5 persons involved in serial robbery cases, including the robbery of a bakery early this month. Here is a regional commander again.
The 11th of May 2025 at about 1:25 a.m., 2 armed men, Isaac Agbezodo alias Money Man, age 20 years, and Justice Akwesis Safu Opong alias Garba Manta or Demon, age 19 years, Okada rider, attacked staff of the George Bakery head office located at Domi, a suburb of Accra. After a vigorous interrogation, Isaac confessed and led to the retrieval of key exhibits, including motorbike, clothing used in the operation, the identification of his accomplices. On the 22nd of May 2025, following intelligence operations, Garba Manta was also arrested at a mining site between Osino and Saman. He subsequently led police to the hideout of Sonitral Amasaman, where the pistol and the live ammunition used in the robbery were also retrieved.
And of course, this is coming from the Greater Accra Regional Police Commander. They also Police Anti-Galamsey Task Force from the National Police Headquarters has also arrested 17 suspects in connection with illegal mining activity at Samra Boy in the Western region. The suspect, comprising 7 Chinese nationals, 10 Ghanaians, were arrested on May 25th as part of ongoing anti-Galamsey operations in the area. And we have more in subsequent bulletins coming your way on radio and on television. Now let's talk about transport fares, because this afternoon transport fares went down over the weekend across parts of the country as commercial drivers begin complying with the directive of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union. The GPRT announced a 15% reduction in transport fares following the strong performance of the Ghana cedi against major foreign currencies, including the US dollar. Meanwhile, many drivers are expressing frustration over the constant calls on them to reduce prices despite high cost of spare parts and the general rise in the cost of living. My colleague Collins Frimpong has been engaging drivers at the Circle Station, and this is his report.
Near says 400, black food 40 Ghana, black band 100 Ghana. Mena Mrs. Anya car winner. No, I bet me first one. Says one auntie says so. Meso me wa ire woma if school. So we be so fast, sir. What on say city on so we be to active service city on so. Mimi do ama for me car. Na mente so mano. Wabra me so me hwema ehwe yire etimi di aban no e ka me nkupa de a wonwene drivers ho because me says 40 Ghana me kwato spare pass 400 wo si wona se want so me fa de what so na what so me nya dan makoye says 400 na maka wona etimi nya adwuma no because me to me says, and to other me jam go to Galamsey walk crase. It is a auntie so. Abaya nyan to ya amaniama ma from not dava kwana better swa. Yanya ya Galamsey. Abaya driving. Ya better Galamsey in the back.
Initially, say na moje, and I say
near 9 cedi. Say 8 cedi. 8 cedi na MY because me 8 cedi. Say me fetch na kwotade a wo ze yente so ete kamia me gira anko a say aban ne adafo na ate so no pa wo ma soldiers nsungu kurom ade tafo no wo mu suntu wo mu de so 9 cedi no mate so 15% say esenka eduru be 7 cedi 80%. Mom, they said, yeah, city. Aha, Bapanya for no Kurakaso, ya, dear, I had to Medina, to yet to confirm moto, where Chimota, Edu Omoko.
From a Bajin Yaku, the brand second of condition, now second and so man. Oh, say, dear, young painful, I show my say GPRT painful. OTC, a sound original secretariat. Don't demand by, yeah, there was saying, waiting, but when I catch as anti-sonari at Teso. The attitude, so, since from last Saturday.
Say now, OJ, and I'm watching so say now.
But as manage 10 series, it's about 9. Father manages 7 series, it's about 6 series. Obiani to Adabeni, Dabeni Bia, Obiani to Adabeni. Say, I had to bet to Dabeni as auto, or Titi Petuso. Ti Dabeni antipetus Guardia, you do say task force. I'm on be ready for a year don't pay. But what about the market sellers, Kinke sellers, and the Doku 5 series, Eco 7 series? Is there a seba formula, Ecosro? Then I'm here for home. And then we are Mammy Diba here to be DA, or Chatri Conco Mesa 10 series, where we so that's here. Nanya Titina Maswa, Moonu Adafu stars the moon so. Eh? Yeah, Maswa Adafu stars mounted so. A banana agent made public dimension. As I die from high, fair tie. Fair tie, near 250. Yeah, see, entity must work 300. Tie, one cover like this. You got 300. Break food, 350. Yes, entity must work 450. So just yeah. Entity must move. So persons you can see. You have an entity must because you're better than just.
Now, before we go, despite warnings of impending danger, some residents of Lower Wager are refusing to evacuate as Ghana Water Company Limited begins control spillage on the Wager Dam. Ghana Water Company has sounded the alarm after water level rose to 45 feet, just 2 feet below the dam's safe operation level, a consequence of recent rains. Now, in the statement on Friday, the water company urged residents in downstream communities to move to higher ground immediately. However, as my colleague Suti Aboche reports from the ground, not all residents are heeding the call.
The dam is spilled, whether controlled or overflowing, does it come here?
Yes, please.
Okay. So you have past experiences of the dam overflowing and causing disaster here?
Yes, please.
Right. Now we are saying the Ghana Water Limited has issued another directive that those in these areas should evacuate, but it doesn't look like any evacuation is going on here right now. Why not?
Now, if they open it, it's not. Now it's so limited. It's not affecting us for now.
So you are sure that the water will not come here?
If it's too much, it will affect us.
Because of Ameyaw-Akumfi to monoma bina gbele tutuwe. Biane la gbele la ka.
Banye back disaster ni wona previous years banye ba ekun alo.
Ke ameke washimbi because of ko shimbi onyo shikpo hanfa. Ninu ebako.
And they're saying that, the worst case scenario would take 3 days for the flood to dry up. And so that's not really the concern they have right now. Ghana Water Limited says evacuate, but you're still here. What's on your mind?
Yes, but for now, we are not experienced that. So mubie ni kesidia eba. But say to the normal times now, mubie ni kesia eba hano. Until for now, dear, we are okay.
Amount for nya information say biana is no or maybe any more. Am I free alcohol? So by almost being once now or more information be like almost start sell or move be now about road yeah.
Okay, so because of the information you have that it's a controlled spillage and you're not going to it's not going to overflow, that's what's boosting your confidence.
Last 3 years, ni aufa.
So that's the mark. It's a light yellow line there.
She normal one agbele like eba bi and eba joint. Wa na issue kukla, wa no wa hinyomi. For 3 days,
okay, so he's saying that when they open the dam, in the controlled spillage, the normal one we are seeing right now. Okay, Shengbe, this is the level that the water gets to, and the extreme one is what we see over there. Why should be a dam?
No, you know, I will 2 years time. I believe it cock more SCFN no be an issue.
They've started spilling the dam again in a controlled way. You've been asked to evacuate, but everyone seems very comfortable.
Oh, madam, that one there is okay. Because the first time they open, we all will go. We love here. So nowadays they limit the dam. They open us small. I don't know, the people they are open again more. I don't know. Maybe so.
All right, so the Ghana Water Company, they started a spillage over the weekend, and it will get intense with the days goes by. Well, folks, that's our show for today. For more stories, log on to our website, myjoyonline.com. There's more news on Top Story, on Newsnight, on Joy 99.7 FM, of course, Joy News Prime at 7 p.m. here on Joy News. Whatever you are up to in the hours ahead, I hope it's profitable. My name is Elton Brobe. Have a good evening and take care.